I never imagined I'd be telling one of these stories, but here we are. Living in Oakwood Estates for the past 5 years had mostly been calm and quiet, until Deborah Wilson, or as most neighbors whispered behind her back, Karen, was elected HOA president 6 months ago. From the moment she took office, it was obvious her mission wasn't to improve the community, but to enforce her personal vision of perfection on every house, lawn, and resident. My name's Thomas Miller. I've worked as a county surveyor for over 15 years. It's not the sort of job that typically comes up during block parties, so to most of my neighbors, including Deborah, I was just the quiet guy in the blue house at the end of Maple Street. What they didn't know was that my profession involved precision, legal documentation, and an expert understanding of property boundaries, skills that would soon become very relevant. The problems began when Deborah announced that all house numbers in the neighborhood had to be standardized for emergency services. She slipped letters under every door demanding house numbers be black, 5 inches tall, and in a specific font called Montserrat, which she insisted was the only acceptable typeface for a distinguished community. I found it amusing because county emergency guidelines specifically recommended contrasting colors depending on the home's exterior, a size range between 4 and 6 inches, and overall legibility, not a specific font. Still, I figured this wasn't worth a fight, so I complied and ordered the new numbers. 2 weeks after installing them exactly as directed, I received a violation notice. According to Deborah, my house numbers weren't properly aligned and needed to be shifted 3 inches to the right for aesthetic consistency. That night, I dug through our HOA bylaws and, unsurprisingly, found nothing about specific placement beyond being clearly visible from the street. I decided to call Deborah directly rather than get into a petty back and forth. Hello, Deborah? This is Thomas from 4876 Maple Street. I got a violation notice about my house numbers, but there's nothing in the bylaws about placement specifics. Her voice came through with that overly sweet tone that barely masked her condescension. Thomas, as HOA president, it's my responsibility to maintain community standards. The board agreed that visual alignment is important for neighborhood appeal. You have 14 days to comply or you'll face a $50 fine. Could you tell me where that requirement's documented? I've read the bylaws closely. The board has discretionary authority over aesthetic matters. It was discussed at the last meeting, which you didn't attend. Her tone made it sound like skipping the meeting was practically criminal. I'd like to see the meeting minutes then. They'll be posted to the community website within 30 days as usual, she said, before adding curtly, but the violation stands. 14 days. I hung up, feeling that special brand of disbelief that only an HOA tyrant can inspire. As a surveyor, precision and proper documentation were literally my job. Deborah's arbitrary demands flew in the face of everything I valued, but I also knew how ugly HOA disputes could get. After a week of weighing my options, I decided I wouldn't be moving my numbers 3 pointless inches. They were visible from the street, installed according to the written instructions, and aligned with county recommendations. I drafted a polite but firm email, referencing the relevant bylaws and county guidelines. Deborah never replied. Instead, 15 days later, a notice showed up. $50 fine for noncompliance. That's when things escalated. I came home from a 3-day job overseeing a major survey for a county project to find that my house numbers had been replaced. Not just moved 3 inches over, replaced with a completely different style. Same font, but with a decorative plaque that wasn't part of the original design. Someone had trespassed onto my property and made unauthorized changes. I immediately checked my doorbell camera footage, and sure enough, there was Deborah herself, along with the HOA's so-called architectural compliance officer, a retired dentist named Phil, removing my numbers and installing new ones. I didn't confront Deborah right away. I gathered evidence, photos of the unauthorized numbers, downloaded the video footage, and printed out copies of all the correspondence, including my unanswered appeal. Then I accessed the official county property records for our entire subdivision. As a county surveyor, I had legitimate access to those files. What I found was alarming. The decorative plaques Deborah was enforcing weren't just about looks. They were shifting the official visual property markers by about 4 inches in most cases. In a neighborhood where property line disputes could hinge on mere inches, this was no small issue. The next day happened to be the monthly HOA meeting. Normally I skipped these. An hour of Deborah griping about lawns while everyone else stared at their phones wasn't my idea of time well spent. But now I had a reason to go. I donned my rarely worn county surveyor badge, gathered my documentation, and headed to the community center. Deborah was mid-lecture, criticizing the Johnsons' untrimmed hedge via PowerPoint when she noticed me walk in. Her eyes flicked to my badge before she composed herself. "Thomas," she cooed, "how nice of you to finally attend. We're discussing landscaping compliance now, but individual violations will be addressed during open forum." I smiled. "Actually, Deborah, I'm here in my official capacity as county surveyor for Westland County." The room fell silent. Deborah's smile froze in place, while her grip on the presentation clicker tightened. "I need to address an urgent matter regarding property boundaries and unauthorized modifications that could carry legal consequences for the HOA. "You'll have to wait, Thomas. It's not on today's agenda," she said tightly. "This isn't an individual concern, Deborah," I replied, keeping my voice calm and steady. "It's a county matter. The unauthorized modification of property markers, including house numbers, which serve as official reference points, is a direct violation of Westland County Code 5.3.7. Phil shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Maybe we should let Thomas explain," he muttered. I approached the front, hooked up my laptop to the projector, and displayed side-by-side images of the county property records and photos of both my original and modified house numbers. I played the video clip from my doorbell cam. Murmurs filled the room. What may look like a simple decorative change is actually a modification of property markers, shifting reference points by approximately 4 inches, I explained. I then displayed the county code. Modifying property markers without a permit and licensed surveyor supervision carries a $500 fine per instance. Deborah's complexion cycled from pink to pale to blotchy red. "This is absurd. They're just house numbers. The HOA controls exterior aesthetics." "Aesthetics, yes," I said, "but not official property markers. And I've identified 17 other unauthorized modifications throughout Oakwood Estates over the past month." The room buzzed. Someone in the back shouted, "I can't afford a $500 fine because Karen wanted new numbers." I calmly continued. "The HOA does not have the authority to override county regulations. As a courtesy, I'm prepared to file this as a single violation attributed to the HOA board, provided all changes are reversed within 7 days." Phil cleared his throat. "And if we comply, what's the fine?" "For a first offense reported voluntarily, the county typically reduces it to a minimum fine, one $500 penalty." Deborah looked ready to combust. "The HOA treasury isn't paying a ridiculous fine over house numbers." At that, Janet, a previously loyal board member, raised her hand. "Actually, Deborah," she began, "our bylaws state that any fines resulting from the actions of individual board members are their personal responsibility, not the HOA's." The room went still. "That's not... You can't..." Deborah spluttered. "I move to immediately rescind the house number standardization requirement and approve emergency funds to restore all house numbers to their original positions, Janet continued. I second, came a voice. Third, added another. The vote passed unanimously, with only Deborah and Phil abstaining. As the meeting adjourned, Deborah stormed up to me. This isn't over, Thomas. You had no right to ambush me like that. I smiled. Just doing my job, Deborah. County codes exist for a reason. Oh, and you'll be receiving the official notice in the mail. $500, payable within 30 days. And by the way, interfering with a county official is a separate offense. The look on her face at that moment, I wish I could have framed it. Right next to my properly positioned house numbers.